Okay, so to introduce myself, has anybody not been in one of my talks this week or you new? Awesome, welcome in. Hi, I'm Lindsay. So as a studio owner for 14 and a half years, I bought the studio that I grew up at the age of 19, ended up selling it in 2022. So post-COVID, I kind of decided to dabble in systems operational management coaching a little bit and see if I liked it. Turned out I really liked it, ended up selling out, and so in 2022 I was like, I can't really do both, so I decided to sell the studio and move into this full time. So I help studio owners and small businesses all over the country in getting their operations and management into place. So when I talk systems, I'm talking a lot about process, I'm talking a lot about organizational management, strategy, and operations. That's really kind of where my niche kind of lies. So I kind of explained a lot at my very first talk about how I'm kind of the how-to person. So we go to these conferences and we learn why we should do something and what we should be doing, but a lot of the time nobody actually dabbles into like how to actually get started. And that's what this talk is about here today. So this is actually how to get started with systems in your studio. I've used this framework with over 250 studio owners since 2022. It's worked out really well. Some of the people are in here today that I've worked with as well. But really, it's actually about getting your stuff all organized into one area so that you can feel like you can actually move the needle forward in your business. So a fully built out system, so when I talk about a system, people get a lot of things that they start to actually mix up a system and a process. So I'm going to give just a quick rundown of that. Your process is your actual, how do I do something? That is only one part of your system. Okay, an actually fully built out system has to have 4 parts to it to actually be something that is helpful and worth it and actually a fully built out system. So those 4 things are, first is we have the rhythm calendar. So if you were in the talk that was on Tuesday, I spoke about this a lot in length, but the rhythm calendar is the who, the what, the when to your business. It is every single task that has to actually get done to carry that thing out. Okay, so when we talk about everything that you have in your business, whether it's recital, it's competition, it's financial management, it's sales, it's anything like that, when we talk about those things, there are tasks associated to each of those things. That's step 1 to your system. What do I need to get done to carry out XYZ? Okay? The second part to your system is going to be your storage. Okay, now here is one of the things kind of dependent on your team, who you are. You should have some type of storage system for all of your files. That is not just on 7 different computers, or your computer, or your staff's computer. There should be a cloud-based storage for you, something that can be accessed anywhere, at any time, by anybody who needs access to those documents. So for me, I use Google Drive, you can use OneDrive, you can use Dropbox, anything like that, but you should have everything in one place, actually sorted and organized, searchable and findable. Okay, so I'm going to break down each of these here in a minute. Then you have the documentation. This is actually your process. This is the how to do those things that are listed in your rhythm calendar. Now, when we talk about actually documenting process, this is where a lot of people stop. 1, because it's overwhelming. There's a lot that you do in your studio to document that. 2, people feel, why should I have to document it when I know how to do it? That's your staff as well as you. I'm saying that. But also, it's just one of the things that's time consuming. By the time you finish documenting one way to do it, something has probably changed and you got to document it again. Like, I remember documenting Facebook ads in my studio like 6 times a year. Every time the algorithm changed, you had to like adjust something. So it's one of those things that it is ever evolving and it always lives. And your 4th is your blueprint. Okay, so your blueprint is the actual home to all of these things. This is the cherry on top thing. This is the final thing that you actually build that homes all of your systems in one area. The thing is that you probably have versions of all of these 4 things. You probably have some documentation in how you follow up with leads and tribes. You probably have, a list of everything that you need to get done for costuming. You probably have some type of version 17 different versions of a recital packet because you just keep making a new one each year. So I said this in the first talk on Tuesday. The goal here is that 90% of your business is repeatable, transferable, and can be systemized. We need to be focusing on the part of the business that actually takes a human. Okay, with where we are at in this world, where we have AI happening and all of these things, like AI is super creepy to me. It's one of those things like, I get on ChatGPT and I'll use it and I'm like, this is really weird that you sound like me. It's really weird that you know exactly what I wanted to say. I just like how you say it better than I would say it. But it's weird and it kind of creeps me out a little bit. But it's one of those things that is where the world is moving. And if you don't jump on the train, you're going to be behind. But you don't have to do that with everything. And you don't have to do that with the stuff. You will never be able to replace you being in the room with the kid and giving them a hug when they had a rough day. You will never be able to replace you being on stage with the kids for the very first time who took recital and they're 2 years old and she peed on the stage and you're never going to be able to replace that. That memory will live with you forever and with that family forever. That's the stuff that you should be focusing on to humanizing your studio. Not how do you run payroll? How do you do tuition? You shouldn't have to reinvent this every single month. You shouldn't have to reinvent this every single year. There's stuff that you already have built out. You probably, unless you've been only around for like a year, if you are a new studio owner, you probably do not. But if you've been around for 5+ years, you most likely never have to create another piece of content again. You might have to change what it says and change that each year, but you actually don't have to replace your Canva documents every year. We feel the need that we need to because we're the creative people and we think let's make 52 new Canva posts. But you don't have to do that. We do it because we're reinventing the wheel each year and that's what we're spending the time doing, right? So between these 4 things, you probably have a lot of this already built out. The number one question that I get, especially after I speak, is always, I just don't know where to start. It's a lot. It's overwhelming. I tried to get started, freaked me out, decided to stop. Like, you get into this place, you gotta choose one thing or the other. This is the exact order that I would go in. Step 1 is the rhythm calendar. You cannot figure out all the things you need to organize until you know what you need to do. And most likely, you are operating by the seat of your pants. You wake up, you have no clue what has to get done that day, what your team is doing that day. You know that there are many hundreds of things that you guys have to get done that week. You don't know if they've been all done, right? You don't know. Half the time when you get to the end of the day, you're like, I honestly have no clue what I did today. I know I worked all day. I have no clue what I did today. Or I don't even know where I need to start tomorrow. And you know you have stuff to do. Well, then what we tend to do as humans, just because we really want to, one, we say that we're busy. We say that we're doing all of these things. We start checking the easy stuff off the list to make us feel like we did a lot. You're like, I did 52 things today. But really, in reality, there was probably 3 things that you really had to get done to move the needle forward. But you didn't do those 3 things. One, because they take time. They take effort. Okay, not saying that you are lazy, but saying you don't have the mindset to dive into financial spreadsheets this morning. So not intentionally. You gave them 52 things. And they did some of the things, but not all of the things. And then there wasn't actually a deadline tied to it. Is it that it's tied into the next Monday? This is what has to be done in the week. Most of the time you guys probably have a mix of things. These are the things I need done today. These are the projects we're going to start working on that I need done in 2 weeks. These are going to be done by next Monday. And they've gotten it all kind of mixed up and you're not 100% sure. Okay, when I talked about this on Tuesday, a lot of it was clarity is kindness. Your people want to win for you. They just need to know how. This is kind of step one. Are they just doing their job? Is step one. Are they just doing their job? Here's the task that I hired you to do. Has it been finished? And can we move on to the next task so that we can move forward? Right? So rhythm calendar, step one. Step two, your storage. Okay? I'm a weird one. I like sorting Google documents. It's a thing. I think it's relaxing to sit and watch TV and like, let's move everything around. It's actually quite bad. My staff would get mad. Like, I would have it fully sorted. I'd be like, I decided to change the storage system last night. They're like, can you please stop doing that? At some point in my life, yes. But it's relaxing to me. I like sorting documents. However, here's what it does. One, it needs to be cloud-based, meaning it needs to be accessed from anyone, anywhere. Not only does cloud-based for that reason, but two, computers crash. When your computer crashes and you lose everything that's on it, all of that work is gone. Okay? So cloud-based can be accessed from anywhere by anyone. Now that's not saying everything has to be open to them all the time. You're like, I don't want them like looking at this, 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 and this. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if something happened and you had to say, great, I'm going to move this over for you really quick so you can access it and you can see it, it's on there. They can find it. They don't need to wait on you. We have such this control thing, especially as an owner, where you get nervous if they start to see things. I don't want them to see that. I don't need them to see that. And at some point, yes, there's a line. Like, my staff never saw my financial dashboards. They don't need to see that. They never saw my HR stuff. They never saw the employee improvement plans. But they can see my lead system. They can see my trial stuff. They can see my marketing campaign stuff. They can see that stuff because in order for them to do their job and actually start waiting for me, I had to let go of that control that I'm the only one who can see it. And all of that can go into a whole other talk of like trusting your people and all of that. And I get that some of us have just been screwed. We had somebody yesterday who person walked out with 75 students. You know, I get that. I've been in that position as well. But when we hold on to the control and we don't give people access to what they need to do their job or to find what they need to do their job, half the time you probably have half the stuff built out that they can use. You've just never shared the access to them, so they started over. And then when you're 6, 7 employees different in turnover time at the front desk, you probably have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different versions of the exact same thing you had them start doing. Right? Who's done that? Yes, you can raise them. We're all in this together, okay? Cloud-based, that's the first thing. Second is it should be locked down. You should have a level of access for your items. Okay? So people should only have access to what they need to see to do their job. They don't need to have access to your entire studio. Okay? Especially for the sense, if you're talking on the trust and being nervous somebody's going to take the stuff, you give them access to their piece of the puzzle, not to the whole puzzle. Okay? So you can password protect it. You can lock down. I use shared drives on Google. So I have, 5, 6 shared drives, and that's based on permission. Okay, you can have access to this drive, you can have access to this drive, you can have access to this drive. And we move them in there, okay? Everything should be here. Every single document you have for your studio should live in this place. Okay? Not on your home computer, not on this drive, not on the 17 different Google Drives that you have. And I keep saying Google Drive, but that is interchangeable for Dropbox, OneDrive, anything that you do have. So I just use Google. Okay? Every single thing should be stored somewhere in here. Every resource you've ever gotten. Okay? It's thousands of documents. Okay, I go into some people's drives and they have like 11 documents in there. I'm like, I know this is not everything. They're like, this is all that I use. I'm like, I promise you it's not. Or you have a lot of stuff in Canva now. Because a lot of things have moved over there, right, for the design part. Same kind of thing. Yes, I will say you do not have to download everything from Canva to put it into your Google Drive. You can keep it there. But you can also sort your Canva. because I can have folders in there. Because if I go onto Canva, and your people do this too, when you go onto Canva and it shows you recent designs, you're like 6 hours later and you've like gone down the deep dark Canva hole. And you actually didn't do anything that you were supposed to do when you logged into Canva that day. So if you go in and you just bookmark projects, you can actually sort everything into folders. And you just go straight to the folder that you need. So organizing that there. Searchable. Another thing on Canva. If you go look at your Canva right now, how many things are like copy of minimalist business card? So true. Or it's copy of dance team post and it's recital. You just made a copy of something. You can never find those again. Except for that 2 weeks that you worked in it and you remember what it's called. Same thing goes for your Google. I got into somebody's Google, and I think we had like 670 untitled spreadsheets. I was like, you have no clue what these are. And they're like, well, I should just toss them. And I'm like, that's a lot. All you. I can't tell you what to do. But they did when they opened up every single one, figured out what they were, saved the ones they didn't. But that's a huge amount of time that they had to spend to do that. This is why a lot of people don't like to do the organization part, because they don't want to spend that time. You're retroactively trying to fix what you already did. Okay, so, but it should be able to be searchable. I should be able to go in at any given point in time and say recital spreadsheet and pull up the most accurate recent recital spreadsheet. That's the other thing. How many things in there say recital spreadsheet and you have no idea what recital is for? And you're looking at it like, which one was the last edited? That's the one. You do this, but all of that is taking you additional time. All of that is taking you more time than you do that. Systems are all about, here's the thing, if you put a system into place, if it doesn't make your life easier, it's not a good system. But it is going to take you time to build that system. And it is going to take you the time on the front end, so you save yourself time on the back end. This will help you before you go hire somebody. Because the amount when you put, and the best way you can tell how unorganized you are is when you hire somebody and you're trying to train them. And you can't find anything. And you're like, there's some document. Oh, found it in the web. Sorry, found it on the web. See? But it should be searchable. Okay? That can be done with a naming convention. Okay, so your naming convention in your Google Drive. So everything for us was like recital costume master list 2024-2025. Recital costume master list 2023-2024. It was not recital costumes 1 year, and recital costume master list the 2nd year, and recital costume spreadsheet the 3rd year, because again, you never know what they are. And you guys are all laughing because you all have that right now. You all have that in your Google and in your spreadsheets and in your areas. So searchable. Organized. Okay? No orphan documents. That's what I like to call them. All those documents that live in your Google Drive that don't have a folder home, those are called orphan documents. How many of you got of those? Thousands. Thousands. Yes. See, we did this. Yes. No orphan documents. Everything has a home. Everything lives somewhere. Okay, everything has, I don't care if there's one document in that folder, there's one document in that folder. There is no orphan documents. And I'm going to show you examples of all of these things here at the end. Step 3 is the documentation and process. This is the part that's going to take you the longest amount of time, and it's going to be the part that all of your people hate you for. Just put it out there first. Tell them you're not going to like this project. And you, as the owner, are not going to like this project. Okay? The documentation and process, so one is it's going to help you with training. It should help anyone out at any time fumble their way enough through it so there is zero interruption to the business. Talked about this a lot yesterday. There should be, when you have a staff turnover, when somebody gets sick, when somebody calls out for 2 weeks, when something happens XYZ, there should be zero interruption to your client. It could be a whole, shit show on the back of house, like what you guys are doing, but your client should never know. That's like recital. That's like recital 1-on-1. Backstage, it's like everything's on fire. And the people are like, that was the best, easiest show I've ever seen. And something happens, somebody should be able to come in and do a task, maybe not the most perfect way, and maybe not the way that you would have done it, but it didn't interrupt the client. We have such a control thing. Like I did Canva so much longer than I needed to do Canva. I just had this like control thing that everything I put out had to be for me. Like I held on to that like 2 more years longer than I should have. Because I just had this like, no, it really should be, I should be the person doing it. It's, you know, it's my brand, it's my things, it's these type things. And I just got to the place I found I was like, can you just go make a post? I just don't even care what it looks like. I just need it to get posted out that we have a dance camp next week. Because when it's waiting on you and it's reliant on you, it goes out later and later and later. And all of a sudden it's Saturday of dance camp and they go, did you post it? And you're like, oh yeah, I did not. Did not post it. That's why we have no kids showing up today. But it's busy and you forget. And you have all of these amazing ideas and we have zero strategy to actually execute the ideas. Because you're creative people and that's where you lie. Okay, so you have other talents. For most of us, strategy and operation is not the talent. It's a learned skill. Because our talent is choreography and formations and production and these type things. That's how most of our brains work in here. So to sit there and do a strategy, you're like, I just wanted to put on the dance camp. But there's 52 steps to actually execute that dance camp out that you had to do first. How many of you go home and you're like, we're going to do this thing, and then there's zero actual strategy to do this thing? This is part of it. Okay, so the documentation and process, somebody should be able to pop on and say, okay, you know, Laura's out today, I have to run tuition, got to figure it out. They should be able to pull it up, how do I run tuition? 2, it needs to explain what is the process and why we do it this way. This is highly important. I didn't do this till my final year when I sold. I never had the why we do it this way. Just because I was like, because we do it this way. Like that's why. But when I was going to train and I was going to sell, and I actually had to explain to the person buying, this is why I've done it this way for X many years, I realized, man, if I would have told you that like 10 years ago, my life would have been so much easier. Because there is a way you do it. So for example, we have a very specific way we would do our recital lineups. Just was. We wanted to make sure people weren't in multiple shows as much as possible. We wanted to double check with quick changes. We wanted to make sure that like it wasn't all lyrical stuff and all jazz stuff. We wanted it all like, let's have a little bit of everything. We wanted the seniors in a specific way so that it was fair, so we did alphabetical. And then we did our intermissions in the same way to make sure like the dads, like we always gave the intermission after a ballet so like that they were happy. Like all of these things, right? So we had all of these different things. There was a reason we did it the way that we did it, but my staff didn't know that. The person who bought it didn't understand why I spent the hours upon hours doing the lineup the way that I did. So when we go into explaining, you actually have to explain, this is why we do it this way. This is why I do my Canva post like this. This is why I have it. It doesn't have to be long. It can be one sentence. This is why we do it this way. But when you actually are explaining to somebody who's going to buy your business why this has been successful for you, you just save them hours of stress and anxiety. That's what becomes valuable. Okay, you've gone to classes. Some of you, and I'm not even talking about just talking about selling and exiting, but even with your staff. So even that year that we had started doing that, when I knew I was going to sell, having the why in there actually even helped with the staff. Because have any of you gotten those really gung-ho staff members and they come in and they're like, I have the best idea and we're going to do it like this. And you're like, we've done that 17 times. And I'm going to tell you exactly why it doesn't work. Right? Because they come in and they're like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and you're like, I know more than you in this. And you have that moment. The why helps with that. This is why we do it this way. Well, why can't we just add 7-year-olds into the 10-year-old class if they want to do it? Okay, there's a reason. You need to know why we don't do that. Okay, well, why can't we just let them perform not in a costume and put them on stage in a t-shirt? At least they're going to be happy. There's a reason that we don't do that. And you have to explain those things. So it needs to explain what it is that process, and also why you guys do it that way. Then two things happen. One, if you say, we do it this way because I need this outcome, your staff now can come to you and say, here's a new way for us to do it, and I'm still going to get you this outcome. Instead of, here's a new way we should do it, and you're like, that's not going to give me what I need. Because they don't know what you need. So it'll do that. That's the first thing it will do. The second thing that it will do is it'll also explain to them why it's important that they do it that way. Because there is a very specific reason why you are successful or why you are not successful. And most of the time it lies in that why. The reason something isn't doing well is probably because it's not a good process set up to get there. And the reason something is doing well is probably because you have a really good process to get it there. And everybody has successful ones and everybody has very unsuccessful ones. There are things that you are definitely really good at in your business. Like you're really good at marketing and sales, but your financials might be terrible. Or you're really good at financials, but your staff management is horrendous. Everybody has that. I've never met a single studio that is perfect and 100% and amazing at all systems and all elements of their business. Not one. Everybody has their strengths. The why helps with that. The why explains why you guys are like that. Then an updated date. Okay, this is also important. When was this system actually created and when was the date it was last updated? This is something that's just always evolving. Okay, I created this in January of 2023. The last time it was actually looked at and updated was January 2024. I know it's probably a pretty current process, but if I pull something up that is from January of 2019 and we've lived through COVID in 5 more years, this is probably not the most up-to-date process that we're using. I'm not expecting you to pull up your processes every single time you do this. But once a year, just double check that it's accurate, double check that it's been updated, double check that the things are there. That way you know when that is. Visuals, okay, and I will show, maybe I'll show you some examples of it, but many people learn many different ways. I'm a checklist human. Give me a checklist and I can mark it off and I can work my way through the checklist, and that's a good process for me. Except I have some team members who did not do well with checklists. They needed a video. And then I had some team members who needed me to sit with them and hold their hand while they did it. Then I had some team members who they just were like, can you just screenshot it for me and show me? So we had, when going into the preparation for us to sell, and I talk about it in preparation for us to sell only because that was really our end game. That's not all of your end game. So it doesn't even matter if you're trying to sell, you're trying to hire, you're trying to do anything, whatever your end game is, it's still the same foundational process. But we had some checklists, some documents, some screenshots, some videos, some this. We had everything documented. We had worked really hard to do that. And it also had depended on who was doing it. Like, I liked checklists, so all the stuff that I documented for them was in a checklist format. But my office manager really liked Zoom, so all of her documentation was in Zoom videos. And then this person really liked, screenshots and build process sheets with screenshots. So everybody had kind of done it a different way, depending on what it is that they like to do. So it was our goal before I sold that everything had to be documented all 3 ways. It had to be a process, it had to be a video, and it had to have a screenshot. The beautiful thing is you can do all 3 of them at the exact same time. You do not have to do it, I'm going to do the checklist, I'm going to make the video, and I'm going to make the screenshot. Do it all at the exact same time, and you can have them all done. I personally use Zoom since COVID. Before COVID, I used Loom. Okay, Loom is a video recording software. It's just a platform. You can get a free account. But 2 things happen with that. One, you cannot go above 5 minutes on Loom, so each video can only be 5 minutes. And second, after COVID, then you had to start paying to download them. And I wasn't going to pay for another tech stack. Now I pay for Zoom because we all had to pay for Zoom in COVID. So I just would do Zoom. I'd go on, screen record my stuff, pause the video, or stop recording, then do the next one. Stop recording, do the next one. I could have 15 videos of how-to videos in one download, and I just relabel it, upload it to my drive, there it is. So I use Zoom. Okay, it's something that I'm already using. Or you can use Loom. Loom's just an extension you put onto your browser. You can say record what I'm doing. You can talk, you can have your voice, you can do those things, you can show show your face, you cannot show your face, all the same things that Zoom can. So you can do that too, and it could live in the Loom library. You could just have it live in there if you wanted it and link to it, just like a normal thing. Again, I was also trying to put all of my stuff into one area, so I wanted to download the Loom videos to put it in my Google, because if Loom ever goes under, or if I don't like Loom, or I decide I don't want to pay for it anymore, I lose all of that. So that was another Google thing that I put into there. And ScribeHow. ScribeHow is actually a screen recording software. Okay, you can sign up for free on it. I think you just have a max of how many ScribeHows you can have in there. But again, you can download them right now, and you don't have to pay. I'm sure that will change at some point. But ScribeHow, you can go in, and it actually tracks your mouse and your keyboard. So if I click, and I click, and I click, and I click, and I click, it'll show me the screenshots that I did, and there's my process. So I'm going to say, like, how to create a spreadsheet. And I'm going to go to Google. I'm going to click New Spreadsheet. I'm going to change the cell size. I'm going to do this. I'm going to type this in. And it'll actually track all of your keystrokes and your mouse clicks. And it'll create your screen recording software. It'll create your screenshot process. And you can also edit that. You can go in and be like, oh, I accidentally answered a Zoom call. And you can go and delete those steps out for yourself and have that there. But there needs to be some way of showing them how to do it and what that looks like for you. And fourth, there's actually a process sheet. I will give you access to my process sheet at the end. I'm going to show you examples of these as well. But there's some type of process sheet, okay, to actually take them there. And I'll show you exactly my order that I would do this, but this has some type of either how-to walkthrough, checklist, the what lives there, the why lives there, the who lives there. Okay, I also put on there any tech stack that is necessary to carry out this job. Okay, so let's say I'm going to run payroll. Okay, you need access to Gusto. You need access to the payroll timesheet spreadsheets. You need access to our clock-in thing. You need access to their pay rates. Like whatever it is that they need to carry out that job is listed on this process sheet. Nobody should have to go find how to do their job, because they won't go looking. If you don't make it so simple and easy for your people, they will either make up their own way, they will never go look for it, or they just won't do it because they don't know how. So then you go into step 4, which is the blueprint. Okay, this is probably what I've been hired to do the most, because people don't want to take the time to build it. I do mine just on a Google site. Okay, so for the studios on a Google site, for my new business right now, I actually just have it on the back end of my website. It all depends on how you want to build it, but essentially it's just a one platform area that homes all of your stuff. It's a pretty version of your Google, and it puts everything else into there as well. It's a one-stop area. Again, I'm trying to make this very simple for my people. So on the blueprint, it's the home for every single thing in your business, everything. I literally was able to gift my blueprint to the person who bought the studio, and I had to do nothing. That alone got me $25,000 more in my sale, just for having it. My rhythm calendar got me an additional $25,000 in my sale, just for having it. Because when somebody came in to buy, all they wanted to know is, can I come in and I don't have to do all this work. Both of those things. That was a $50,000 increase right on top of my selling price. Because here's the thing, I can still sell my studio at what it's evaluated at, no problem. But that work, that's my intellectual property. So if you wanted it, you got it. If you didn't want it, I could take it and you can make your own. So just those things alone. So everything lives here. Everything that can possibly go to operating the studio lives in this. It's a big, pretty pink bow blueprint to your studio. Not everybody's going to have access to everything on the blueprint, and nobody can take that, but it lives there. And I'll show you one here in a minute. And it directs you to where. Okay, I'm going to take an example. I come in the morning, and it says on my rhythm calendar to set up recital tickets for the showcase this summer. I click on the link that's going to take me to the recital ticket page on my blueprint. And this is going to say, here's how you set documents that we've used the last 10 years on how we disperse tickets and ticket codes and how we set this up and sort it. Here's what we upload into there so they have their names. Here's what our tickets should look like. Here's the information that goes on there. Everything that I would have to do for my job to set up recital tickets lives on this page. It takes me right to the dance recital ticketing website. It takes me right to the area in Google Drive where all of the old spreadsheets live. It takes me to the image of the seating chart. Any how-to documents that I have on how to do that live there. It's all in one area. I'm not going to look for how to set up recital tickets. I'm not trying to go find where the images of our seating chart to upload to dance recital ticketing. I'm not trying to remember the website that we're using to set up tickets. You know it's dance recital ticketing, but your team doesn't always. On where those things are, it takes everything to one area and directs me to where. So what website do I need to go to? Where do I go to find XYZ? They should not have to look in the Google Drive. Here's the thing, they're not looking in the Google Drive. That's why you guys have 52 spreadsheets that are all the same. Because they're not looking. They don't know what it's called, they don't know where to find it, they don't think you have it. If they can't find it in 30 seconds, it is obsolete. Because you guys have thousands of documents. The biggest Google Drive I sorted was 88,000 documents. 88,000. That took me so long. I did not like sorting Google documents after that for like a month. But 88,000 documents is how many documents they have. And when you think about that, and what is in there and what that is, nobody's going to look through that. And here's the thing, I would probably say half of that was duplicates. Just because they didn't know where it was, so they uploaded it again. And this was a studio that videoed and did photos of every single class that they had for 12 years. I'm like, there's a lot of videos and photos in here. And she's like, well, some of them are duplicates. No, they were all duplicates. But you guys have a version of that, maybe not 88,000 documents, but you have duplicates in there. You have documents that somebody is editing and you're editing a different one. Like, these things are happening. I know, I've lived this life of doing it. So you want to make sure, where do I go to find? You're sending them, you are making it so easy to say, you are going to go edit this spreadsheet. You are going to go edit this document. Where can I find what I need to accomplish my job? You are probably the least excited about this version. Your staff is the most excited about this. Because the amount of time they'll talk to me like, oh my gosh, this would be so nice, I can't find anything. And you, in your brain, your Google Drive is an extension of your brain. You know exactly where to go. You're like, I know that untitled spreadsheet 52 is the spreadsheet for recital. How do you not know that in my head? You think of that though. And it's totally your brain that's doing this. And your people can't find it. They did not understand that untitled spreadsheet 52 meant recital costume 24. They don't get that. Like, realistically. And we do these things, and we just expect them to live in our brain, and then we get upset that it's not where we want it. Okay, clarity is kindness, friends. Clarity is kindness. It needs to be easy for them to do their job. So, it puts it all into one area. Every document, every website, every past reference, every image, every graphic, everything somebody needs to do to get done with those things. It all lives there. So how do these actually help each other? So when we talk about first steps, these are the first 4 things. Once you have these first 4 things, going to a conference and implementing something becomes a lot easier because you know everything that you have. Once you have these 4 things, then you can actually start evolving and building. What we tend to do is we choose what to evolve and build, and we build it and we build it and we build it, and then we forget what we built until the next year. So how these actually help each other and why you do these in this order. Okay, I have you do it in this order because I made the mistake the very first year that I launched the coaching, and I let people choose which one do you want to start with. Do you want to start with the Google? Do you want to start with the rhythm calendar? Do you want to start with the blueprint? Do you want to start with training? And that was an absolute disaster. because they're like, let's start with the blueprint. I'm like, awesome. I actually need to know what's in your Google Drive to actually build your blueprint. Like, okay, let's start with the training and documentation. Awesome. I actually need to know the tasks that you actually have to do to figure that out. You can't actually figure out your systems till you know what your tasks are, because you have no idea. So what you tend to do is you only focus on what you're working on at that moment in time. And what ends up happening, because you are trying to work on what you are already working on and build a system, you tend to not do that. Why? Because you're busy and you get overwhelmed. And you're like, I'll just do this later, I'll just do this later, I'll just do this later. And guess what? Then you're 15 years later and it's never been done. So how do they help each other? The rhythm calendar is going to give you clarity on what you actually do. You guys have no idea how much stuff you do. You know you do a lot, and you know you're always busy. You have no idea what you do every day. You don't even know what you did last week. So this is going to give you clarity on what you actually do in your business and what you should be doing. Okay, same thing for your people. You have no idea what your people are doing for you. There are so many times I talk to people that are like, my office manager's been with me for like 20 years. You know, she'll never leave me. And so I always have to ask the question, awesome, if she left you tomorrow, would you know what she does? The answer is probably not. Because at the end of the day, anybody can leave but you. And so when you have those things, you actually need to have a clarity on what everybody is doing for you and what actually has to get done for the studio in some given way. Once you have that, then you go into the storage drive. You actually need to get everything into one place so you can find everything for the studio. Here's the thing. This happens all the time. Somebody will build out each of the 4 individual things, but none of them actually talk to each other. They don't match. So I'm like, cool. You have a rhythm calendar of follow up with leads and trials. I don't have a single document that shows how to do that. Do you have templates? Do you have your scripts? Do you have your process on what it is? Where is it? Oh, it lives in this system. Awesome. Are the things in there? Do they know how to? We just tell people, I want you to follow up with all the leads. And there's no process. There's no any given thing there. There's no expectation. They just go in and they say, hey, I noticed that you inquired about dance classes. Would you like to enroll? And there's actually not any single strategy around it. And then we wonder why 3 months later, we're like, why is nobody enrolling? Why am I not getting more enrollments? We're getting less leads. We're getting less trial conversions. We're getting less X, Y, Z, all of these things. We have to figure that stuff out. So the storage drive should be able to getting everything into the one place. It should match what your rhythm calendar is. I should be able to find something along the lines of everything in your rhythm calendar in your storage. And for the sake of this, I'll say you're allowed for 2 storages, Canva or Google, or Canva or a Drive. But you have something for almost everything that's in there. Or you should have something for almost everything that's in there. And then you have the process. You actually can't do the process until you know the processes you need to make. You can't do your processes, or what you've done is you have started doing your processes and you have no clue where they are, or they are all over the place. Because there is zero organization to it. I went into somebody's drive and they're like, we've documented everything. I'm like, awesome, where is it? They're like, I know it's in there. You're gonna find it. And they did. They had like 300 documents of how-tos. I'm like, well, clearly you guys have never used these. Because you didn't even know where they were. And they're like, no, we did them. And I'm like, cool, you know how many hours you spent doing this and nobody has used them? And the only reason that they hired me is because they were getting ready to hire a new guy. And they're like, I know I have it. Can you go find that for me? I know I've done this. Can you go find that? You might even have it done. But you can't actually, that's what happens. You do the process of it and then it just lives in your Google Drive for somewhere. You're like, yeah, go find it. They're not going to go find it. They don't even know what you named it. How many times do you go in and you search your Google and you're like, I know it's for recital. Let me search recital. Oh no, it's not. I put it under show. This time I put it show. This is show. You do this. It is so true. If you looked into any of your drives right now, My people, like the same thing I told you guys on Tuesday, we chose Monday simply because it was pretty. My people wouldn't use the list. I'd have been totally content living in the Google spreadsheet for the rest of my days. They didn't like the list. Wasn't creative enough for them. So the blueprint is kind of that same thing. I need it to be easy and I need it to be navigatable. I didn't want them to have to go to multiple places, so we created the blueprint to get there. And we created the one-stop place. So I'm going to kind of show you guys this. I have 10 minutes. I'm going to show you very quickly, and then so you guys can kind of see this. All right. Here's an example of how my rhythm calendar, this is actually my rhythm calendar for my other business in Monday. So here, right here, this is the item. Okay, so it actually tells me my things. Champion, that's who's in charge of it. So I can actually see it. Status, I would know whether or not it's done and when the due date is. At the very minimum, that's what you're looking for. That's a level 1 rhythm calendar. Everyone should at least have those 4 things. What it is, who's in charge, has it been completed, and what is the due date. Okay, my rhythm calendar is automated. Okay, so I sent out the video to the rhythm calendar people from Tuesday. I'm just showing how that automation works, but I'll show you one so you can see. So every day, so if I take this for an example, we use Doctor's Appreciation Day. You can see here I have my due dates. See these? I wish I could make this go bigger. There we go. See my due dates that are here? Okay, so every year, I'm going to take those out. And I have a setting date. Okay, so the setting date in here is March 30th, 2025, because that's when Doctor's Appreciation Day is. Okay, so every year when I go and say, okay, when is Doctor's Appreciation Day, and I click it, so you can see here there's no due dates. I'm going to go in here, and how my automation is built. I'm going to go in here and choose. It was March 30th, 2025. Come on. There we go. I'm going to click it, and it's going to automatically update all of my due dates for the year. So I spent 1 day setting all my due dates up, and now my rhythm calendar is done for the year. I don't have to do the hard work of the 7,500 line items every single year and setting the due dates. I'm just doing it once. Again, a system should make it easier. It'll take you hours to build it, and it should take you 2 to 3 hours to maintain it after that point. You're already doing this work. If you are sitting in a meeting with your people every week telling them what to do, you are already doing this work. This just puts it into an easy version. Okay, so rhythm calendar is here. I have mine sorted out here. I operate with Traction by Gino Wickman. So I do a lot of things in like 2-week sprints, 30 days, 90-day jams, biannually. So I can come in here and say everything I do this week. This is everything that's on our rhythm calendar as a whole. I can see what's overdue, what's due today. I can look on here and see the next 2 weeks. So if I go in here and say, okay, I want to see what's on the next 2 weeks, and I just want to see just for myself, I can now sort it, and this is everything that I have due in the next 2 weeks. I can say I want to see everything that Michelle has to do. My entire year is already set and planned, so when she looks at me and says, hey, I'm going to go on a trip in 2 weeks, we know exactly what she has to get done before she leaves. I know exactly what I need to take care of while she's gone. And we can move her due dates to say, okay, here's what I want you to do before you leave, here's what you can do after you leave, and I don't have to worry about it. It became very helpful when I had 3 teachers that all had babies in the same month. I was like, awesome, you guys couldn't have planned this not around recital time. But they did. Whatever. But But when you're doing that, it became very helpful of me trying to figure out what do we need to make sure it's get done. We could plan all of that in advance. We knew, and we made a plan for 6 to 8 weeks before that. And it worked for 2 of the 3. One had a NICU baby, so she went out 12 weeks early. But that's only 4 weeks I had to stress about, not 8. I had to stress about 4 weeks on picking it up and figuring it out. And so we had those moments. Okay, so rhythm calendar is one. Here's an example of just a Google Drive. There is no orphan documents in here. Everything lives in one area. I can go in here, click into each thing. No orphan documents. Everything lives in a folder, even if it says not using anymore. It's still in a folder, it's still away. So I am not getting down the Google wormhole and opening up 7,500 documents. Okay, so the documents are there. Here's my documentation and process sheet. So how I did this has become the easiest way I found to do it. I made the rhythm calendar the first step. That's the very first thing that I did. You'll see on my rhythm calendar, like one of the first things is weekly marketing and sales management, I think it was. So I can go on here and find weekly marketing and sales management. I made a process sheet for every single task that was on my rhythm calendar. It's not on there. They are not fully documented yet. So if I open this, and I open this up, there's nothing on here. But I know that I still need to build this process sheet because this process sheet is blank. So I can go in here and say, okay, I need to build this out. I have the general gist right now. These are the things that I'm expecting you to do, but I've not explained how to do any of this yet. So this process sheet that's in here, it says created by me on January 18th, 2024. The last time I updated this was January 18th, 2024, because I haven't touched it. Why do we do this? Who's in charge of this? When is it due? How much does this cost? I put it on here if there's a budget or anything tied to it. With what? That's the tech stacks that you actually have to go to carry out this task. This is where you need to visit. I have my scribe capture, which would be my screenshot, and my loon capture, which would be my video, and then I have the process below. Okay, so even if I'm just prepping for this, I take my rhythm calendar. These are all of the documentation and process sheets I haven't built yet. And as I build them, I slowly move them into folders so I know that they're done. So these I know that I have documented and done it. I just opened a new business in May. So I'm still building out lots of processes that are there. So as you go in here, that's the spreadsheet. Then here's an example of the Google site. So this is just a template version. But here I can go anywhere in here. So like if I go into financial, I can click into financial. And all my financial systems live here for my studio. These are all the tech stacks that you had to go to actually operate anything financially. So I can see it on here. I can go into any individual tech stack to find the how-tos there. I can go here and go into any of my individual program product services pages. I need everything for recital, I can go into recital. I need everything for company, I can go into company. I can make pages, pit pages, so I can go into marketing, choose those things from there. So all my marketing systems live here. Every tech stack you need to go to find it, every script. And all of this gets linked in, matches my blueprint, matches my drive, matches my rhythm calendar, and my process sheets list. Yes?
So you created a separate website for all of this to live, so it's one stop shop to access the things in the Google Drive. Okay.
Yep, so she asked, I have to repeat it for the camera. Yes, I created a separate website that homes all of this stuff that just links out where it needs to in the drive or on a website or in a blueprint or anything like that. What other questions between these 4 things do you guys have? Or I can do volunteers and victims and I'm going to make you share things. Yeah.
Are your
yes, the teachers were all on it, but when I went into Monday, I didn't want to pay for them to be on it because you have to pay by person. So I just had a separate spreadsheet that was just for the teachers. The teachers have tasks too, but what happens is, so my director of service, for example, the director of service is who's in charge of the teachers. She would have a task on there make sure all the teachers turned in their recital music, so that I know it got done. That was her job, and she was the champion of that. But my teachers knew your recital music is due March 10th. And so they would have to check off just on a spreadsheet. I just had a teacher spreadsheet with here's your task for the time, and they would just check it off when they finished. But actually in my Monday, it was one person that was the champion of that. You could put your teachers in it. What I do find is teachers are a little bit more difficult because if they're part-time, they just don't care to look. They're not being rude or anything. They're just I work my 1 hour class. I'm not going to look at a 7,500 line spreadsheet to check something off. I turned in my music. You're good. That's why I think taking a smaller one and just having it be just a teacher one that they could find their tab or something. And they have, 10 tasks a year. It's turn in this and turn in your stage notes and that kind of type stuff. So you have both. Yep. What other questions you guys have? So everybody gets to declare on your sheet right now, and then I'm going to call you out on what is the thing that you are going to do your first takeaway from leaving here. So first steps to systemize. Go ahead. Okay, so her question is, on the rhythm calendar spreadsheet template that I gave, so do you build it on separate tabs to start and then merge into one, or do you just build it all in one? I personally build it on separate tabs, only because people get overwhelmed at the list, and you forget what you already put in there. So same kind of thing as the naming convention. If you don't know what task you put in, and you don't know what it's called, all of a sudden you're going to have 6 tasks that are all identical, they just say different words. So I have a recital tab, and everything for recital lives there. I have a competition tab, everything for competition. Once I feel really good about that, I also like to be able to back ramp it on the separate tabs. I like to do the formula to get the dates. Then I'll copy and paste all of that into a master list. And that front master list is what lives. Yes. Yeah, and in the video I did the Monday formula and the Google formula second. So it shows the Google formula to type into that spreadsheet. So then you can just copy paste it, and then you move it over. Into there. Other takeaway. I'm gonna call on you right there. Bun. In with your bun. Yeah. What's your name?
I'm Kaylee.
Hi, Kaylee.
Hi.
I'm gonna call you. Number 1 takeaway.
So, we're in the process of creating systems because our community exists. And even before coming to this today, but what I didn't consider was the role that the Google Drive as an organization plays in that. And how you can create the systems, but if we don't have an easily manageable drive or place where they're living, it's not going to work for you. So that really, I don't know, it's another piece of the puzzle that I think will make the project go smoother. I think what I'm struggling with is what do I absolutely need to start first?
Rhythm calendar 1.
Yeah.
Because you need to actually know, the thing is if you give this project to your team or to yourself, your day-to-day doesn't end. You still have to do the day-to-day stuff. And so what tends to happen if people start to either focus on this, they feel like they aren't doing their regular job, and then other stuff starts to fall by the wayside. So rhythm calendar is step 1, because you need the actual day-to-day to not end. This is on top of it. The building the systems is going to be on top of, you can't just not follow up with leads for 6 months because you're building your systems. So you still need to have that in there. And like I said, it's one of the things that once you know here's everything that we do, you start building those systems first. And you're going to need to pick what are the most important. It will be unrealistic for you to think that this is going to be done for you in 30 days. It would be unrealistic to think that. fastest I did it was in the preparation to sell, and I did it in like 3.5 months, but that was me working like 18 hours a day only on systems. None of you are going to really be able to do that, most likely. Maybe 1%. Yes?
Yeah, like to add that realistically, I've been working on this since, what was the first member rally right after COVID? 2021. And I started with inputting everything and, like just vomiting everything that we did in a rhythm. But we built it as we go. So it's like every time we do something, that's where we started. We just wrote it in a Google Sheet or in a, on a Google Doc. And then it goes into, like we use Asana, and then it's this, and it's a process. We're still, like I did a blueprint sprint with Lindsay, and I'm still building that as I go. So it's 3 years in, and we're still like in the process of doing that. So it's not like something that's like fast. But it has changed our business over time, and it's nice to see as we go. So like patience is key. Stick with it. That's what I would say.
100%. But that would be where I would start, because that's going to actually be your map on where you should go next, is that part. And then it'll also help you build, like when you start going to sort your Google Drive, you're going to realize that there's stuff in your Google Drive that you forgot tasks for in your rhythm calendar. And so then you can add it. Then when you start building out your blueprint, you're going to realize there's some task stuff that you forgot for in your rhythm calendar, so that you can build it. But when you start trying to do all of that at once, you get highly overwhelmed. And then you're going to sit here and live in a year in just how to organize it. And then you'll get no farther along. So that's why I would go in the order. Start with the one, here's everything we have to do. Then go to the Google, go to that. You could really ultimately, if you did take a month and did a weekend and immersed yourself in each thing, you could probably get 40% done. Realistically, probably 40-50% done of your business and start actually utilizing it. But it will take you, at minimum, this will take you a year. And that's if you're really focused on it for a year, because it's really hard to document when you aren't actually doing it. It's really hard for you to document recital costumes when you're not actually ordering recital costumes. Okay, because then you're adding something to do to your to-do list. Same thing I told you guys on Tuesday. I don't want you to add stuff to your to-do list. I want you to take what you're already doing and getting organized, and then decide to add things later. Otherwise, you're now trying to put in systems, and you just added 500 items to your task list. And now it's no longer a simple, easy thing. Now it's something that's a burden, because you've already started adding to your list. So that's where I would start. Still. Any other questions before I let you guys go? Yes, ma'am.
Back under the blueprint, we were talking about like having multiple documents. What's the best way to consolidate those? Most recent, or just kind of look at all of them and create a new one based on all the different info?
So in my Google Drive, when I sort, so let's take a recital costume master list. So I would have a recital folder. Okay, so the recital folder lives there. And then in the recital folder, I have all my topics. So I have like recital costumes, recital tickets, recital programs, recital lineups, recital volunteers. So if I go into like recital costumes, I have past reference recital costume spreadsheets. The only one that you're seeing there is my most recent, my most up to date. So I'm not trying to scroll through 17 recital costume master lists. But I still have on my recital costume master list there. They're just in a folder that says past reference recital costume master list. So then if I go there and it's the one from last year, I know I haven't made the one for this year. And then once we make the one for this year, I move that one for last year up there, and then I'm done. So that would be the best way that I would organize it. Yep. All right, everybody, thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here.